Exploring the heart's possibilities. Hi, I'm Jordyn Ruiz.
I'm Bueno.
And I'm Scott Hudson.
So understanding the regenerative capabilities of stem cell implementation into the cardiovascular system is what we will be focusing on and understanding that gap in knowledge to ultimately aid the regrowth of dysfunctional and damaged areas of the human heart. By repairing these dysfunctional and damaged areas of the heart, we will be using stem cells, specifically bone marrow stem cells, because they're rich in stem cells and they have endothelial progenitor cells that improve vasculogenesis, overall cardiac health, and they have the possibility to aid the damaged areas of the heart. Congenital heart disease, also known as CHD, is an abnormality in the heart that develops before birth. And our study is going to focus on how stem cells can be used to aid children born with CHD and specifically arterial septal defects. A researcher we will be modeling our research proposal on is Junwei Liu, who published an article called Early Stem Cell and Fragment Predicts Late Cardiac Functional Recovery. And she basically said that a lot of researchers thought that the heart was a terminally differentiated organ, but other recent studies have shown that the heart does have turnover capabilities. Thus, the possibility for regenerative properties in the heart is possible. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, nearly 40,000 births result in a form of congenital heart disease, and there's different forms of congenital heart disease. There can be aortic stenosis defect, separation of septum walls, holes in the heart, and valve malfunctions, and specifically what we will be focusing on is atrial septal defects. A little bit more on background. The researcher that we're modeling our research proposal on, Junwei Liu, observed stem cell implementation into hearts of adult SCID female beige mice over a 4-week period, and she used PET imaging or positron emission tomography to observe if there was a growth in tissue over these 4-week period. To begin our study in vitro, we will use cell suspension and force aggregation as well to observe tissue regeneration.
So the specific research, to start off, we will be using a technique that has been promising in other studies, which is the forced aggregation and cell suspension, which is the suspension of cells or small groups of forced aggregate cells into an agitated liquid. From there, we will move on to a live animal study, using animal models, and our animals, the SCID mice, which is a mice that has an immune deficiency, or a genetically engineered immune deficiency. This allows us to inject the heart's, the bone marrow stem cells into the heart without having to worry about the patient's, or in this case the mice's, immune system attacking those cells and interrupting in our collection of data. We will attempt to work with both infant and adult SCID mice to gauge the regenerative capabilities of the heart at the adult stage in life and at the infant or adolescent. Our hypothesis is if bone marrow stem cells are implemented into the heart, then we'll see regeneration of the septal holes in both infant and adolescent people or subjects. The purpose and significance of this study. The purpose is to evaluate the potential medical application of bone marrow stem cells for people that have CDH, and more specifically arterial septal defect. The significance of this study is that it will improve people's lives who are currently living with CDH. It will improve their life expectancy and their life quality. It will also help reduce the #1 leading cause of birth defect-related deaths in America and around the world. It's also significant because it might be possible to use this research for other fields of regenerative capabilities in the human body.
There are certain roles and responsibilities that we as researchers must take upon ourselves, mainly because this is such a delicate field of research and it's new. In 2001, George W. Bush removed a ban in order to further study in this specific field. We must practice the code of ethics agreed upon by the scientific community, specifically the National Institute of Health, and they are mentioned because they are the ones who pretty much oversee everything and give permission to people who want to conduct research with stem cells. Since we will be using mice, it is important to remember the Animal Welfare Act of 1966. And the 3 points that you get out of that are refinement, reduction, and replacement. Refinement is to make sure that the animals are comfortable and not subject to any inhumane conditions during the time of research. Reduction is to make sure that the least amount of animals are used. In other terms, not to overkill, and find the research with the minimal amount as possible. Replacement is to ponder whether or not animals are even needed in your specific kind of research, and if there are other ways to further in the field than animal testing. The Presidential Commission for the Study of Bioethical Issues was set forth by Obama, and it was a step he took to further our country, and he was stating that the field is so innovative and it's important to dedicate effort, time, and money into it, but of course we must abide ethically by the responsibilities that we have. The impact and implications of the research are very significant because it would reduce the leading cause of deaths among babies born with CHD, and CHD just affects so many people and it's seen so commonly. The implications to understanding the gap in knowledge between stem cells and congenital heart disease would have not only positive effects for the patients, but the research could potentially help branch out to treat other forms of congenital heart disease. This is a huge advancement in the medical field and in the study of regenerative medicine. We would like to thank you for your time.
How long was it?